Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to this morning's, Sunday morning's Journal Talks at the Kerala Museum. The Kerala Museum is a vibrant beacon of the arts in Kochi. Set up in 1987, it was the dream of R. Madhavan Nair, who even then recognized the need for a cultural institution that would influence learning in history and the fine arts in the city of Kochi. In 2022, to mark its 35th year in existence, the museum embarked on a program to create the Journal Digital Archives, a collection of photo essays, digital exhibitions, and talks by drawing on microhistories of people and communities from Kerala. The archive also takes contributions, and we are happy to announce that in the past few months, we have been gifted a wonderful collection of photographs of Kerala in the year 1983 by Canadian origin scholar and researcher Robin Jeffrey. And these form one strand of the starting points of our inquiry together this season of Journal Talks. The other strand that we've begun exploring, especially with the first talk this series, this season 3 of Journal, is the dioramas in the History Museum that cover the story of Kerala over the past 2,000 years. In our exploration of the dioramas, we're also looking at how that past relates to the present. How is that going to affect our contemporary lives? Today's lecture is titled Learning from Muziris, a new approach to conservation in high-density settlements. Our speaker is Professor Manoj Kumar Kini, who's Managing Director of KTIL and Principal of KSID, former MD Muziris Heritage Project, and Registrar of ISCHK. A little about the lecture today. The talk today will explore the continuing relevance of the Muziris Heritage Project, one of Kerala's most ambitious heritage conservation initiatives. With his extensive experience leading the project under the Department of Tourism, Government of Kerala, he presents the distinctive framework of the Muziris project with its integration of archaeological, architectural, and community-based approaches. Sharing lessons from Muziris, he will discuss the challenges of sustaining heritage-driven development and strategies that can be adopted to ensure both ecological and cultural resilience. And finally, reflecting on future directions for inclusive heritage planning in Kerala. Dr. Kini is an alumnus of CEPT Ahmedabad and the School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, and is the Managing Director of KTIL and the Muziris, and previously the MD of the Muziris Heritage Project under the Department of Tourism, Government of Kerala. He also holds the additional charge of principal at the Kerala State Institute of Design in Kollam. And with over 2 decades of experience in design education, research, and practice, he has spearheaded several initiatives in urban design, design education, and sustainable development. Dr. Kini established the first urban design department in the government sector in South India at the College of Engineering in Trivandrum, creating a platform for interdisciplinary collaboration and community-based design. He has led programs including the Faculty Improvement Program, professional education and outreach initiatives, research and publications, and international design workshops focused on contextual and resilient design strategies. He serves as chairman of the Board of Studies in Design at APJ Abdul Kollam Technological University and has previously been program in charge of urban design at CET, founder secretary of IAA Kollam, former national secretary of IAA, and current Kerala State Chairman of IUDI. His research spans design education, timber architecture in Kerala, and disaster resilience. I now welcome Dr. Manoj Kini to the podium. Oh, before we do that, sir, 1 second. Um, House rules, please, everybody turn your phone on silent. Thank you. Because we do not want to disturb, like in the cinemas, they say, everyone else's experience of the talk. And the talk will be for 45 minutes, followed by a Q&A. You'll all receive a piece of paper to put down your questions on. Alternatively, you can write it down on your mobile phones, of course, but pass them on to me before we pass them on to Dr. Kini. And lastly, everyone has their own perspectives and beliefs. I'd request you all to please be mindful of others' beliefs and tolerant towards everyone else while you share your own views. Thank you. Dr. Kini, stage is yours.
A warm good morning to all, and thanks for Kerala Museum for giving me an opportunity to discuss with you on this particular topic, learning from Muziris, a new approach to conservation in high density settlements. You may wonder what is new about this. In fact, India is known for its very rich culture and heritage. And as I quote our father of nation, Mahatma Gandhi, the nation's culture resides in the hearts and in the soul of its people. The problem is conservation as a subject or conservation as a domain is still evolving in India. We have enough and more to preserve. We have enough and more to conserve. But how to go about that? We do have strict guidelines put forward by Archaeological Survey of India and other related organizations as legal formats. But still, many times we find it difficult to follow these rules and regulations. Our concern in Kerala is we do have rich culture and heritage, but our climate is against it. We do have the tropical climate, which is pretty harsh on everything. So whatever we want to conserve, whether it can be documents, whether it can be literature, whether it can be buildings, whether it can be artifacts, all those things have to bear the strain or stress put upon by the climate. So it's very difficult to conserve anything in Kerala with such a harsh climate. That's our problem. Along with that, we do have another thing that has come in place. It's our density. What is density? We as a state, if you look at it, hardly 30 to 35% of our space is available for us to settle down, in the sense to build. We know that we do have very fragile ecosystem. We do have 44 rivers cut across Kerala. Every 50 kilometers there is a river system in place. We do have the Western Ghats. We do have the very fragile coastal region. And you know what happened to Kerala during these floods in 2018. And we had this regular floods that was happening in Kerala all over the years, where the entire, we call it Ekkal in Malayalam, the entire debris from the Western Ghats will be taken by the water bodies and get it settled along the western coast. That's how our Kerala's topography was formed over the years. I'm speaking about centuries. So if you look at the travelogues in the past, people have said that our ports used to change the shape in every season. I used to wonder how that happened. How can the ports change their shape? So ports used to change the shape because our ports were all the natural openings. Our ships, I mean, the traditional ships are not like the present kind of ships, which are, well engineered. Traditional ships, they used to have this, what do you call this, pie couples, no? They used to follow the wind pattern to come and go. So during the rainy season, the monsoon season, our outer seas were not the right place to, anchor. So they had to have safe anchoring places, and many times these rivers which join the sea became the anchor point. That became the places where these ships could enter inside and kind of anchor. They were the safe places. And once the wind direction changes, they will go back. That was the kind of system that existed in the past. So all our river mouths, especially the major river mouths, became our anchorage points, or maybe the points where this trade things happen. So first we have to understand, over the years what has happened in Kerala is that our density increased because of our availability of water and food and all. Because in Kerala we can't say that we will have any kind of scarcity of food, because we do have the geographical infrastructure in place where we can have something to eat. And because of the same reason, over the years, our entire coastal region became very dense. And you know that the average density of India is almost like around 360 something, where the density of Kerala is more than 900, 960. It's 3 times. Similarly, if you look at the coastal region, our density is more than 4,000 average. So the problem here is, it is in this dense settlements our monuments do exist. So if you look at Muziris, for example, we have the Chairman Masjid, we have the synagogues, we have the old churches, we have the old temples, but they are not like temples in Hampi or Lothal or Udaipur or Jaipur. All those places you have that, but they are all archaeological monuments. Here we still use them. Chairman Masjid is still used for namaz. Tiruvanjakulam temple is still used by people to go and pray. Daily pujas happen there. So we can't just think about places where we can isolate and take it as museums, which will happen in places outside Kerala. In Kerala, it's very difficult. And because of the same reason, there are several set of issues that we face. First thing is, since we are using it like our own house, suppose we do have an old house. If we want to live, we have to convert it, change it. We have to, according to our lifestyle changes, we put on toilets, we modify the toilets, we change our bedrooms, we change the bed. So these things keep on happening. Because of that, what happens is that our heritage is lost in a way. So what happens is that we find it very difficult to, do something as far as conservation is concerned in a high density settlement like in Kerala. Similar thing is like to take possession of land. It's very difficult. To do a research, to excavate, it's very difficult. So anything related to archaeology, anything related to architectural conservation, it's pretty difficult to do it in a place like Kerala with a high density. That's the problem. That's an issue. And here in Muziris, we have kind of, tried to understand this particular issue in depth, and to come up with a solution which may be in fact unique, maybe the first time in the whole world, because the concept of living museum, as we see in Kerala, it's very difficult from the living museum that we can see how it is happening in the Western world. So here we do have, the context is this, we do have the ancient port town of Muziris. Again, I'm telling you, academically, it's a postulate, it's a hypothesis. We haven't yet proved that Muziris is that, but it is an old port town. We call it Muziris. There are several etymological evidence. There are several evidences that a port is there and was there. And obviously, we do have several, travelogues and many artifacts which we have got from this place to prove its existence. So the ancient port town in Muziris, located in Kodungalur, Kerala, 30 kilometers from Cochin metropolis, was once a prosperous seaport and an important trade center on the international spice route during the 1st century BC. This is the context. So we do have the archaeological remains which has come up from the excavations which has been conducted in this region. And the heritage structures reveal it's 3,000 years old with its international business and trade associations. Recognizing its heritage and tourism potential, the government of Kerala launched this Muziris Heritage Project, which is called MHP, to bring about significant differences of development in the region through the conservation and restoration of its tangible and intangible heritage assets. And MHP is not only aims in reinstating the old glory of the legendary port of Muziris, but also to achieve larger development goals through a revival of traditional arts and crafts and other community activities. Today, I'm going to share you the experience of this. So, how MHP reimagines conventional heritage management concepts and practices of conserving the historic fabric through local community involvement, achieving broader economic and social development goals, and significantly contributing to the emerging domain of heritage action. This is what we are going to discuss, the focus of today's discussion. And the project aims to create a paradigm shift in heritage conservation initiatives by not just conserving the monuments alone and sites, but enabling community engagement and social upliftment while encouraging tourism as a tool. It's very important to aid the sustainable development of the entire region. Why we introduce a new thing, tourism, into this is basically because, as we know that to sustain anything, we need money. Nothing will be sustained without money. So if you want to conserve something, if you want to maintain it, we have to find a source. Any institution or anything to sustain or survive, we need constant supply of money. Where the money will come from? Who is willing to shed money for conservation? Suppose you are having an old house, and if you are not getting anything out of that, and you are spending every year 15 lakhs, 16 lakhs, every 5 years to renovate that, who is going to do that? That's one reason why we are missing many of our monuments. We are missing many of our old buildings. We are missing many of our this thing basically because we don't have the resources to conserve it. That's a problem. So this is that situation now, the chaos. And you know that within the city, there exist beautiful monuments, buildings inside this, which is very difficult to find. And several things do, it's embedded within the system, which we call as intangible heritage. So, as such, in India itself, there's a lacuna in heritage documentation. The unofficial figures of neglected, crumbling heritage sites in India tally around almost 7 lakh. The official list that enjoys the protection of the Archaeological Survey of India ASI is just 3,650. You understand the difference. This is our problem. And we feel so sad when we go and visit these places. Largest geopolitical expanses, greatest volume of diversity in heritage, and Indian specimens housed in museums around the world because we have lost it over the years. And I'm not going to read it. You can just go through that. What's the problem that we are facing? You can see everywhere it's happening in Karnataka, in Hyderabad, in Maharashtra. And even if you look at the film field, India has the world's lowest survival rate of cinema. It's a heritage. We have lost many of our old prints. We don't have it. And coming back to coastal heritage of Kerala, we do have a very, very, very strong coastal heritage with multiple points of entry. And Cochin, Kollam, Kodungalur, Calicut, Ponnani, all these are place entry points. And when we speak about heritage, it adds a value by multiple means via tourism sector, as I told you. So international recognition for our culture, income generation from cultural assets, enterprise development, rejuvenation of lost crafts and arts, assured maintenance and upkeep, livelihood generation for a larger population. All these things are multiple things that we have to address when you look upon these aspects of, conserving our heritage. So let me come back to Muziris. Muziris Heritage Project was initiated by Department of Tourism, Government of Kerala, which is aiming to conserve and preserve the tangible and intangible heritage of Muziris to fulfill the purpose of educating people about 2,500 years of Kerala's history by establishing 29 museums, which has now gone up to 51 within the Muziris Heritage Zone. In fact, the project was basically the brainchild of our former finance minister, Thomas Isaac, who is hailing from that region and he knows the history of that place. It was his passion. And the project was conceived and several archaeologists and architects worked on that, and the DPR was submitted by Benny Kuriakos, who is a conservation architect based in Chennai. So several people are working on that from that day, and it's continuing. It's not ended. We are still going on with this project. It requires a lot of money and energy and effort and so many stakeholders. So Muziris, as we know, it was an emporium to the ancient world. We do have Roman connections. In the Roman literature, it is said that there was a temple, Augustus temple, which existed in Kodungalur. So we are yet to find it out. Archaeologists are behind that, finding where it was. So you know that during certain excavation that has happened in that region, we have got gold coins, of Roman times, and in the Roman records, it is written that the people of, the rulers of the Rome has kind of, warned the people not to spend too much money on pepper, because they were spending, sovereigns of gold for this pepper. So that's why pepper was called a black gold, because it was, equated to gold. So this is the initial region which we started with. You know that it's like a cleft, it's like a cleft which is called Muchiri. That is why it is called Muchiri Patnam. Muchiri means in Malayalam, in Tamil, Muchiri, that cleft. So it's having that shape. We have got that opening, and this is the Adikot beach, which was the entry point initially. Later, this entry point was a historic entry point which got shifted to Cochin. So the history of Cochin starts with this. This was the first point of entry, and you know that this particular point, you can see that the river Periyar, which comes and joins here, and this particular point was the point which was identified by the colonial forces to put up their fort, because from this particular point they could control whomever moves into this water body. So this is particularly it is Kranganur Fort. ഇവിടെയാണ് ഈ പറയുന്ന കോട്ട നിൽക്കുന്നത്. ഇവിടെ ആര് വന്നാലും ഇവിടെ അവർ പിടിക്കും, ചുങ്കം വാങ്ങിക്കും, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അവരെ എന്താന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ആക്രമിക്കുകയോ എന്താന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ചെയ്യും. ആൻഡ് ദിസ് വാസ് ദെയർ strategic point of control, and this is the way through which the ships entered and used to anchor in this particular place. So this is kind of 150 square kilometer. You know that how big it is, with 2 municipalities and 12 panchayats in that particular place. So the known history of this area starts from the early medieval century, 9th century, CE. That's another problem that I told you. Any historic documents belonging to Kerala, we get it only after this period. Sangamira is having a little bit. After that, whatever we get is that. Before that, we don't have any documentation, or maybe rather documented stuff is all gone, which we don't know. But lack of documentation is something which we don't have clear evidence of history, so we can't produce it academically. That's a major problem that we are facing. And if you look at it from the studies, from the kind of excavation that has been conducted in this particular area, we know that we have got enough material starting from the megalithic early history, that is 10th century BC to 4th century BC. Then this was available from the excavation at Pattanam, exploration at Kodungalur, Puttanvelikara, Valluvalli, and beliefs on, Kotakav Church. Then there is a strong cultural gap between 5th century and 7th century. We don't know what happened to this region. Nothing has been received from any of this excavation. This is a kind of a lacune, or maybe a gap which exists. So there are no satisfying evidences from both excavation and exploration. Nothing has been available between 5th and 7th century. What happened to this region, we don't know. And after that, from 7th century to say 15th century, we have got again enough artifacts coming from excavation, from Kottapuram Fort, from Cheraman Parambu, Cheraman Juma Masjid, Tiruvanjikulam, Trikkulashekaran Temple, and all these places. Then in European late medieval period, 16th century, 20th century, it is there and still it is continuing. So we can say that there is a continuous history from or for almost like 3,000 years. So the project concept, as you know that it's a global project, because it's not we confine ourselves to Kerala now, but this was a part of a larger history about the trade history. You know that recently there was a kind of a they found pepper from the nose of Tutankhamun in Egypt, pepper, which was kept as a preservative. So how the pepper reached there? The pepper reached because pepper was available only in Kerala. There are 5 items which Kerala owns. You know that. One is pepper, one is ginger, chukku. Then the clove, grambu, then elakya, that is the ilachi, and we have got this one more thing, manjal, the turmeric. So these 5 items belong to Kerala. Nobody can claim it. So it is Kerala's own distinct. So if you find pepper 5,000 years back in the nose of Tutankhamun in Egypt, that means it has gone from Kerala and through Alexandria. So that was the trade history of Kerala. So Kerala, it was global. And I can say it like this: we haven't, we have to market because every European, see, Europeans became rich in 15th century because of the trade. So because before that, Europeans were also had very bad time. They amassed money basically after this 15th century when they started trading, and the trade started in search of spices, and they were in search of India. We call it in search of India. They went to US. They called it East India. The Spanish people went and settled there. That was the origin of America. Because of the money and all those things, industrial revolution happened. And because of that, the trade routes to India was found by the Portuguese and the Dutch and the English, which finally made them rich and to rule the world. So if you really look at it from that perspective, the reason for everything was the spices. And the spices went from Kerala. So I should say that the reason for the new global order was the spices of Kerala. Isn't it amazing? To look at it from that perspective, the reason for the modern world is Kerala. That's what I was telling you. Kerala is it's global. So we have to look at it from that perspective, how important this project is. And we are still, I shouldn't say that we are still in that first 5% of what we have done. We are supposed to do 5%, not more than that. So it's a global project. It's a cultural pilgrimage. It's a walk through 2,500 years of Kerala history and Indian history, and the resurrection of the land, where Jews, the Buddhists, Jains, Arabs, Chinese, Romans, and the Christians came. Approach is like, we do have the sustainable tourism approach, the conservation, green project, non-formal education, provision of facilities, new jobs will be created, no land acquisition, no 5-star hotels and resorts. It's all, for the betterment of the people. And the aim of the project is basically to retrieve and conserve the cultural assets of the project area, identifying the key features and characteristics and elements of the area, defining the cultural significance of the project zone, provides an understanding of the heritage sites within the historical and contemporary context to support the local community in its cultural, social, and economic vitality, promoting knowledge of the site and its significance to a local global audience, fostering national and local partnership and facilitating social inclusion, promoting sustainable new development and reuse of historic buildings where the original use is no longer viable. So we have several aspects to this particular project. We have the management of the sites, then interpret the tangible heritage, education and interpretation, research and monitoring, enhancing natural environment, managing operational impacts, interpret archaeology, visitor management and tourism, transportation facilities, new structural development, architectural conservation. So these are all the several objectives of this huge project. So management of the site, aware the stakeholders regarding the significance of the site, use appropriate mechanisms in sites by identifying the risk, involve local communities of the site management. As I told you, Why we have to do this is basically because we are dealing with a high density settlement. We are dealing with people. People may not allow you to go and do a research in their house. People may not allow you to go and excavate in their property. These are all the challenges that we'll face once we do such projects in a high density settlements. So we have to always put people to confidence. So that's very important, to involve local communities for the site management. And let me tell you, for the first time in India, I should say, that a particular property was excavated and artifacts were found, and it was all recorded. The entire process was recorded, and the site was given back to the people who own it after doing the excavation. Just imagine it's happening in a place like Kerala. So that is the beauty of this project. So it's still possible. Wherever it is possible, I should say that hardly 5% of what is supposed to be excavated has been excavated in that region. It's an archaeological mound, several mounds. So it's immense history there, 4.5 meters deep. So we have to do that. Second thing is the architectural conservation. Regular or periodical inspections and maintenance of all historical buildings, documentation of structures prior to the conservation, provide robust guidance on conservation practices, identify an appropriate use for building heritage resources. The new development to fill in the gaps, to bring in new infrastructure, then connection, transportation through hop-on, hop-off boats, then bus services. All those things are not yet complete. I should say that this is a kind of master plan. Then we have the archaeological part, to conduct excavation and exploration, to integrate with other universities, to identify new archaeological sites, then documentation and publication, conservation laboratory. Then we have promote intangible heritage by documenting the traditional knowledge and systems in Muziris, to preserve the original context of the intangible heritage, demonstrate intangible heritage in front of the visitors. When I say intangible heritage, you may wonder what it is. Like, for example, the Chautu Nadagam of Gothuruthu. Chautu Nadagam is basically, it's a fusion of Indian and Portuguese culture and dance form. So it is very unique to that place, and their what do you call, the costumes used by these people, their kind of the relief work and all those things are very different. So there are things like that. Food, for example, cuisine. Similarly, we do have the Chenamangalam Kaitari. So there are several things which are there in the system, which is also a part of this intangible heritage. And then education and interpretation strategies to promote non-formal education in heritage sites, to develop heritage and museum studies, and like that. I'm not going to read through all those things. You can just read it parallelly. Then visitor management and tourism, then protection of the natural environment, then research and monitoring, and managing operational impacts. So all those things are part of our strategies to deal with this particular site, which is still in place. So the project components, they include the academic research, they include the revitalization of the rural markets, infrastructure development, conservation, excavation, and exploration. And the source of fund and expenditure in the beginning was around 190 crore, which the 150 CR came from the state component and 40 CR from the central fund. But we are yet to receive the central fund. Currently, it is running on state funds. Then, as far as the project implementation is concerned, we have got 29 museums in place, 9 roads constructed, 14 boat jetties constructed, 7 pathways constructed, and we do have toilet blocks in all these heritage sites. And the management structure of the project is like this. It's owned by the Department of Archaeology. So, it is owned by, there are several components which are owned by several stakeholders. We do have the Department of Archaeology. We have got the Archaeological Survey of India. We have got the state government. We have got private trust and bodies. That's very important. Usually, in a heritage project, usually it's a government job, but this is not. For the first time, again, private trust and bodies have been incorporated into this particular project, where several projects, most of these projects are in the private sector. So they are also part of our this thing. We do have signed MOU with them. There's a PPP model in place. So there are various departments who is playing a major role in this. It's not just one department, archaeology or history. It's like development of software of the museum. Then CDT is involved, KSIC is involved, PWD, then IKM, CES, CHS, KCHR, Archaeology Department of Government of Kerala, NATPA, KINCO. So several agencies are also involved in this. It's a huge project where multiple role is played by multiple agencies. So in the project phase 1, we completed this many projects. So in the museums, we came up with Palyam, Kovilagam Museum, Nalaketta Museum, Paravur Synagogue Museum, Kottapuram Fort Site Museum. Like that, and the excavation is happening in these particular areas. Then we have, we are also going for publications. Then we have several other related infrastructure, and archaeological excavation that has happened has been well documented. So we have several excavation that happened in Pattanam, Madilagam, Kottapuram, etc. And these are some of the pictures from those particular sites where the artifacts and the documented evidences are all in place. A museum is being set up in Pattanam under KCHR for showcasing this, which will become the pivot of this. This is the fourth area which I was mentioned, it's very interesting, the way the entire thing got transformed from 1500s to 1800s or 1900s. And as I told you, this is the jetting portion into the water where they had this fort here. Now the fort is no more there. Only a few remnants are there, but there existed a long fort. It's quite interesting again, അവിടുത്തെ നാട്ടുകാർ മൊത്തം അവരുടെ തുണി അലക്കാനുള്ള കല്ല് ഇവിടെ നിന്ന് എടുത്തോണ്ടിരുന്നു. ഇറ്റ് വാസ് ഈസി ഫോർ ദം, കഴിഞ്ഞ 2 നൂറ്റാണ്ടായിട്ട് അവിടെ ആർക്ക് തുണി അലക്കണമെങ്കിലും വീടിന്റെ ഫൗണ്ടേഷൻ കിട്ടണമെങ്കിൽ കല്ല് ഫ്രീ ആയിട്ട് ഇവിടെ നിന്ന് കിട്ടും. അങ്ങനെ പോയിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുവായിരുന്നു ഇവിടുന്ന്. ദാറ്റ്സ് എ സ്റ്റോറി, അതേ കോമ്പൗണ്ടിൽ നിന്ന് കിട്ടിയതാണ്. ഇത് പോർച്ചുഗീസ് സോൾജറിന്റെ ഒരു 3 ഇത് കിട്ടിയായിരുന്നു. അവിടെ വെച്ച് മരിച്ചതായിരിക്കാം. 20 years ഓൾഡ് യങ് സോൾജർ ആണ്. 1560-40 ആണ് കാർബൺ ഡേറ്റിംഗ് നിന്ന് കിട്ടിയത്. 2 അസ്ഥികൂടങ്ങൾ പൂനെയിലെ ലാബിൽ പോയി, ഒരെണ്ണം അവിടെ ഉണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ ഇവിടുന്ന് തന്നെയാണ് വി ഗോട്ട് എ ലോട്ട് ഓഫ് ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിംഗ് ആർട്ടിഫാക്ട്സ് ലൈക്ക് ദിസ്. വി ഗോട്ട് എ ടെറാക്കോട്ട ഹ്യൂമൻ ഫിഗർ, സ്മോക്ക് പൈപ്സ് ഇഷ്ടം പോലെ കിട്ടി, പിന്നെ കാനൺ ബോൾസ് കിട്ടി, പെല്ലറ്റ്സ് കിട്ടി, ചൈനീസ് കോയിൻസ് കിട്ടി, ഡച്ച് കോയിൻസ് കിട്ടി. ഇത് ഓൾ അവിടെ നിന്ന് ബറി ചെയ്ത സാധനങ്ങൾ കളക്ട് ചെയ്തതാണ് ത്രൂ എക്സ്കവേഷൻ. ഇറ്റ്സ് വെരി ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിംഗ്, ഞാൻ ഫോർ എക്സാമ്പിൾ അവിടെ ഒരു കെട്ടിടത്തിന്റെ പണി നടക്കുമായിരുന്നു അതിന്റെ തൊട്ട് അയലത്തെ പ്ലോട്ടിൽ, സംബഡീസ് പ്രൈവറ്റ് പ്ലോട്ട്. ഞാനവിടെ പോയപ്പോൾ I could gather lots of pottery shreds from the site. അവിടെ എവിടെ കുഴിച്ചാലും കിട്ടും. That's how the history is. ആ പ്ലേസ് മൊത്തം അങ്ങനെയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഇറ്റ്സ് വെരി ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിംഗ് ഫോർ എ ആർക്കിയോളജി ആർക്കിടെക്ചർ എൻതൂസിയാസ്റ്റ്. ഇത് പരവൂർ സിനഗോഗിന്റെ അവിടെ എക്സ്കവേഷൻ നടത്തിയപ്പോൾ കണ്ട ഫൗണ്ടേഷനാണ്. ഇതേപോലെയുള്ള ചേരമാൻ പറമ്പിലെ പഴയ ഫൗണ്ടേഷൻ ആണിത്. ഇത് ജൂയിഷ് സിമെട്രി, ലാർജസ്റ്റ് ജൂയിഷ് സിമെട്രി വാസ് there in Mala. So I'll just show you some of those things that happened. The Palyam Kovilagam before and after conservation is based on Dutch architecture. It was funded by Dutch people as their, this thing to fight with the Portuguese. They gave it to the Palyam family. This was how the structure was in dilapidated condition, which we got it conserved to a beautiful museum, and which is on now with all these stories and all. And all the people who are there, they were trained by tourism department. They are all local people, and they speak about their history. And we do have another ambitious project, basically to teach our auto rickshaw drivers the history of the place and to make them ambassadors. So only once common people take up their role as ambassadors of that particular place, it becomes successful. It's not like some agency should go there and teach them history. They should know about their history. They should value what they have, and they should gain out of that, whether it is in terms of money or job or any livelihood. That should happen from there. So that was the aim of the project. So this is how it was conserved, the Palyam Nalagatta. This is the largest Nalagatta. You can see how it has been transformed after and before and after conservation. This is a Paravur synagogue. It was lying like this, and now we conserved it like this. Chandamangalam, everything was reinstalled. Then we had houses of famous personality like Kesari Balakrishna Pillai, then Sahodaran Ayyappan. So all those houses have been redone and kept it like that. They're all museums now. And we have the new infrastructure that is in place, where this is again a public place where people can gather, they can conduct programs, everybody can use it. You will get it for reduced rates. And we have got a student activity center where school kids can go. And we have the visitor center at Kodungalur where you can initiate several things here. Then we do have this go to the performing arts center for Chautanadagam. There's a museum is coming up there. And we have got several projects in and around where we have conserved, whether they are mosques or whether they are churches or any such projects. This is a Holy Cross Church, one among the earliest churches in Kerala. And then we have the Palyam Muttupura, the Canal Office, the Kirtali Mahadeva Temple, the Chairman Juma Masjid. Just imagine a Juma Masjid which was totally, I mean, they constructed a new building there. And the trust himself took initiatives to go back to this past, which we can not imagine even. So that happened because of the people's participation. That's what I was telling you, how people's participation will make this, entire job, into a great, event in the history of conservation in India. This is Kodungalur Temple. So like that, we do have completed more than 51 projects all over, and several projects are ongoing. This is also completed, the Iranikulam Mahadeva Temple. It's a beautiful temple with a circular Vimana, and that has also been kept back in place. Then the Munikal Beach development. Then we have got, as I told you, the part of intangible heritage, that we do have blacksmithy, the goldsmiths, papadam makers, kaitari makers, sport makers. So several people are there who have, their livelihood from this, and they have all been given spaces in there. We have got, several publications that is happening as part of that. We do have several projects that is happening. We are also in search of the old literature in terms of Paraya Paatugala, Paraya history snippets collect other digital ആക്കിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. So we do have a large collection of Islamic archives available from the entire region. It is available for any general public for free. Similarly, Jewish literature, ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള ധാരാളം things. And as part of that, as I told you, we can't stay, കൺസർവ് ചെയ്ത് ബിൽഡിങ്സ് ഉണ്ടാക്കിക്കൊണ്ടൊന്നും ആവുന്നില്ല. ഇത് ജനങ്ങളിൽ എത്തിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളത് വളരെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആണ്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ജനങ്ങൾ ഇത് ഏറ്റെടുക്കുക എന്നുള്ളത് വളരെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആണ്. പാർട്ടിസിപ്പേറ്ററി മോഡ് ഓഫ് കൺസർവേഷൻ. And for that, we keep on conducting several programs. You can look at it, several conferences, colloquiums, discussions. ഇതിങ്ങനെ നടന്നുകൊണ്ടേ ഇരിക്കുകയാണ്. Heritage programs നടക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, publication നടക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, seminars happening, students coming and doing their studies there, school students coming and spending time, art camps, ഇതേപോലുള്ള lecture series, awareness programs. And this is also very, very important for us to, to go ahead with a conservation program like this. That's what I told you. നമ്മളൊരു കൺസർവേഷൻ പ്രോഗ്രാം എന്ന് കേൾക്കുമ്പോൾ നാച്ചുറലി ഉണ്ടാവുന്ന പോലെയുള്ള ഒരു കൺസർവേഷൻ പ്രോഗ്രാം അല്ല ഇത്. ഇറ്റ്സ് വെരി ഡിഫറെന്റ്. That's what I'm trying to, let you know. And we are also participating in the Muziris Kochi Binale. We had 2 editions now, probably this time also. So these are all the artifacts that we got it from these are models of the artifacts that we got it from that particular site. Similarly, Friday film idonda visitor center. Idepolulla public programs. We have created several public spaces within this particular site. All these things are events that is happening in those particular place. Walks, discussions, museums. So we do have an activity chart starting from January to December, how it happens, and the cultural events throughout the year, several cultural events. So how the project is having its operational impact on local economy. Proper guide training we are given to local people. They were, as I told you, they were approved as the Muziris ambassadors, around 80 people. Tour companies are encouraging these local guides. Then local cuisine is promoted in the Muziris Heritage Travelers. Awareness programs, assuring employment preferences, all those things. You can just go through that. I'm going to read all those things. Then we do have this continuous evaluation of the project objectives and how all these 7, 8 objectives which I have mentioned at the beginning, how it is happening. We do have regular inspection and audit in place, and we keep on tracking these things. And now we can say that Muziris has played its role, and people have started recognizing it. They have started naming their small shops as Muziris, their boats as Muziris. So several people have started, recognizing the name Muziris, and they took it as a part of their day-to-day life. So the concept of living museum is basically we are trying to use that as a tool of integrating life and people and enhancing tourism, interpreting through action and presence. So the rudimentary museum culture, this is something which I was also discussing in the beginning. So we don't have that museum culture where we will go and sit and enjoy a museum. We don't have that culture. This is a problem. I don't know. It's pretty sad to say that even in many of our recognized museums, renowned museums, I can see that people coming here making a lot of noise, and we don't respect the kind of the atmosphere which if you go to any other countries, you can say that the museum culture is there, where they enjoy the artifacts, they enjoy the drawings, they remain silent and read it and observe it and interpret it. So that culture is yet to come, I should say. But then we have to think about how to put it back to place and maybe to integrate with our own kind of system. So these are all the issues. Other than that, eroding relevance and perceived as dead spaces, lack of funding, passive participation, non-integration of culture, no proper interpretive facility, poor inclusivity and low footfall, etc. So conventional museums are object dependent, not people centric, and passive interpretation is there. We have to convert that. The conventional museum culture may not exist anymore. So we have to see how to integrate this living concept of living history, where you can enjoy people in their historic context and how they work in the present world, putting in the dynamic cultural vibrancy and lived accounts, observing them. So Spice Route Heritage Project, we have conceived it in that way, where we have put in the living museum concepts in each site, and how that has been implemented, converting the buildings and making the buildings active, integrating, bringing in people here and telling them the stories, and looking at just not the buildings alone, the buildings, the artifacts, the surroundings, the activity around, everything is a part of this particular thing. So once you go to a project like this, what happens is that you are seeing the entire system as a whole. A museum is not just one building alone. The museum is an experience where you get into the street, you interact with the people, you go and see the places. Everything is a part of our living experience. So for that, we have put on this hop on hop off boat services, where 18 boat jetties are there. Anybody can go there and get in, get out. You can spend your own time. There is no time limit. If you want to do it within a day, you can do it within a day. If you want to take 3 days, you can do it in 3 days. Then we are extending now that project to Alleppey, which is already done. So Alleppey Heritage Project is also part of this Muziris Heritage Project. And now it has been renamed as the Spice Route Heritage Project, which is expanding up to Kollam and to Calicut. So the idea is that we are trying to link the entire project as a whole, where the old glory of Kerala as a Spice Route Heritage Center is being established. We are also joined the larger global group of Spice Route Heritage countries, where more than 34 countries are there. They have all joined together. So as part of this particular concept, we are bringing in all these components, the integrating life and people, livelihood, experiential tourism, commercial development, cultural upliftment, local participation, economical development, and placemaking as a tool. So these are the strategies. I have already explained it. So the heritage of the past is a seed that brings forth the harvest of the future. Again, quoting Wendell Phillips. So this is the kind of experience that I wanted to share with you as far as this project is concerned. I should say that it's a unique project where we are trying to go with a new kind of methodology in conservation. So the traditional methodology may not help us in conserving. So we have to, integrate it with different kind of concepts where we find money for this and we make people participate in this whole process, and the ownership should be given to the people. It should be a participatory mode of approach, and also several stakeholders, how to integrate with them. So I think it's a best example for Kerala, for a place like a heavy, dense, place where people do play a major role, and that too in a democratic society. So unless these type of new approaches are being put in practice, I don't think that conservation will be possible in Kerala. That's my take. There may be difference of opinion, but this is what I wanted to convey to you. Thank you. I think I kept my time right.
Yes, you did. You packed in a lot in a very short time, and sped up also in between, so that we get the full capsule of this lecture today, this morning on Sunday. If anyone has a question, it's time for Q&A right now. If you need a pencil to write down your question, please ask for it.
I just want to know how many of you have visited Muziris. Please raise your hands. This is one problem that I'm finding in Kerala.
Yeah.
Even sitting inside Kerala, our own people have not visited our place.
Highly recommend visiting this place. It's really interesting on the site itself. Yeah, 1 second. We are online, so please raise your hand and take the mic before you.
No, that was a question that came to my mind as you were speaking, as in Fort Kochi has succeeded in the last 1.5 decades in making that imprint in terms of the tourism space. So I was wondering what efforts is the project trying to put in marketing, because it's not really far from Cochin city, but yet the attention given to it is much lesser as compared to, let's say, the houseboats in Alapura or the Cochin heritage area. So yeah, that was my question.
In fact, it's a very interesting question and very important too. In fact, the reason is a technical reason, because if you want to really make this successful, you have to connect it through water. Because again, as I told you, the major problem that we are facing is our road density. To go from one place to another place, nobody is having the patience to travel along to go and visit. So everybody wants to go smooth without any hassle to reach a place. The best way to connect different places in Cochin is through water, and Water Metro has shown it. Now, the problem is there is a small bridge in Waipin where normal boats cannot go. Only canoes can go in. So once the bridge is being revamped and the height is increased, obviously the boats can connect from Cochin to Muziris. And that is the small glitch in that. And next thing is to connect it through cruise. So we are coming up with a cruise tourism policy where small cruises are going to be operational in Kerala. If it comes in, people can visit Muziris from Cochin via the cruise. So we have that also in plan.
That's actually maximizing the exposure to the waterways and
yes.
Yeah. Any other questions?
So I had been to Muziris twice on the trip, and one thing I felt was that, especially when it comes to the fort and all that, I can imagine being an architect and urban designer. I can in my mind's eye imagine the place, how it would have been. But I felt that actually for a regular visitor, there is the explanations given by the guides kind of overwhelms them so much, because there's nothing to see really. So if there was something more, some conjectural models or pictures that would help them to imagine, it would have been great.
In fact, this has already been thought of, and the Chairman Interpretation Center will have architectural models and laser shows where the kind of we'll resurrect that from the history, how it was, and that particular thing is in place. So once it comes in, then it will fill the gap.
You had mentioned children's publications
Yes,
there. What was
yes.
that? Can you?
In fact, there are several publications being regularly published by Muziris Project. Some of them are poems written by people. Some of them are old snippets from the past. Some of them are small booklets on certain things. And it keeps on continuing. So there is a publication wing there, which is in place. And whatever is available on that particular history, like for example, we are also putting up biographies. Then CP Pallipuram is writing on that. Somebody is, I mentioned about Kesari and all, so their life history, all those things, these projects are there in place. So publication is also a part of, this heritage documentation and awareness program.
I have a question coming from museum background. So lived museums is fantastic. Digitally, when you start putting all of these on the archive, how do people access it? How will they be able to see what they own on the archive, as well as for scholars and researchers? How will they?
See, what has been done at museum, or what is being there in the process, is basically, for example, there are more than 1 lakh of heritage documents which has been retrieved from different houses in and around, okay, this particular place, which has been converted into digital document, which is available in a domain. So if you are really interested, as a researcher or maybe as a person enthusiast who want to learn more, it is accessible. So you can go to the domain, and you will get, there are kiosks also which is there in Muziris project. If you want to go there and research, we can do that. So whatever information is available at Muziris Heritage Project is open to the public. So anybody who wants, there are research scholars who are coming there. There are history enthusiasts who are coming there. There are local people who are interested in history. They are also coming there. Everything is available for everyone. So there is no dearth of that. But as mentioned earlier, we are yet to do a lot more as far as museum is concerned. So there is a lot of scope in exploring the museums. As I told you, 3 or 4 museums are in the make. One museum is coming up at Pattanam Interpretation Center. Physical infrastructure is done. Now the internal aspects are being designed, sort of. Second thing is, one museum is coming up at Kodungalur. There's one museum coming up at Chairman Masjid. There's another museum coming up at Interpretation Center, Chairman Interpretation Center. So all these museums are going to help you, to anyone, in fact, globally and also locally.
Thank you. Again, I would like to just recommend to you all, especially students, when you plan your field trip and your school visits and things like that, this is an excellent site to go to, and it's a full day trip. It has really, really, the tour guides are really good at explaining each site, and you can ask endless questions and they will answer. That's also there, and it's a very well planned trip as well. Our team has gone several times.
In fact, there is a marketing team at Muziris in place, and there are learned archaeologists who are there as employed by the Muziris project in their project office. So they are all very, very, experienced, expertise in place where you can access them. So if you can have a phone call with the marketing people and have a kind of a little bit of a homework before going there, you will get all these benefits, and you will be able to get the maximum information. For anybody who's interested, all these stories, related to Muziris can be, received from them.
You have a question?
So how do you navigate the rules and regulations of ASI? I mean, my assumption is that they have a rigid set of guidelines regarding conservation of these sites, which is very old, a century old.
Of course, yes, because ASI was established by the British people, and over the years, it was consolidated by the people during the colonial period. I am not a person who can comment on ASI rules and regulations. It's a legal document, and it's very strict also. As far as archaeological this thing is concerned, nobody can even touch it. It's such a strong law, and that is one reason why, because of the strong law, many of our monuments do exist. We should admit that. But at the same time, as I told you, if you look at the total monuments available and how much we are preserving, there is a big gap. And I think that public awareness is the main thing that we have to really develop. And like for example, in Kerala itself, many of those important buildings are not under Archaeological Survey of India because they can't. People don't allow it also. Like for example, I'll tell you the Kollam guest house, which is more than 200 years old, which is one among the most exquisitely designed British bungalow in Kerala, which is not a monument yet. It's under the tourism department. So it is used as a guest house. So the awareness is very important. So I think that other than the ASI guidelines, the state archaeology should also, do some sort of exercise where we can really come up with some sort of guidelines. More important is people's awareness. Our people are least bothered about our heritage or our buildings of the past. Somehow they are not able to cope up with the present lifestyle and the old buildings and the kind of money involved in retaining them and renovating. So that's what my whole idea today was to tell you that we have to seriously come up with novel ideas. Otherwise, we can't survive. We have to come up with novel ideas. We have to come up with kind of guidelines which suit to this particular period. That's very, very important. People have to work on that.
Thank you, sir. So my question is directly coming after that thing.
Yeah.
Isn't that also a method of preservation, as in the continuous usage of certain buildings and so on and so forth? I mean, we do not have to have this elaborate set of well-funded and well-thought-out projects like this. For instance, a part of the Fort Cochin buildings that exist right now is because they have been converted into five-star hotels.
Yes.
And similarly, in Tripunithura, where I'm coming from, it has documented palaces dating back to the 18th century, and most of them are demolished right now because of the want of capital and so on and so forth. So isn't this continuous usage a part of preservation as well? That's my question.
I didn't get your last part.
Isn't this continuous usage? So the Kollam guest house that you mentioned,
I'm not saying that you have to freeze it. What my point was, you have to, adaptive reuse is what we call that. If you have a building, adaptive reuse has been a technique that has been used continuously by conservation people all over. So obviously adaptive reuse is there. It should be there. But at the same time, the essence of that particular thing shouldn't be lost. Those things are already, I think, being practiced. What I was trying to discuss was the awareness is something which is very important, where to preserve our whatever it is, whether it is tangible or intangible heritage, we have to take that role. Each individual have some value for that. Only then these things will become successful. Here now the problem is that I don't think that more than maybe 5-10% are really aware of or maybe concerned about this. Mostly 90% of the people are not, they don't more bothered about all those things. So that's the problem. For that we need to write a lot, we need to spread awareness, and all those things should happen in fact.
And I'm going to capitalize on that and say that as ambassadors of the museum, I expect you all to go out and talk about this lecture, the journal talks, as well as come back to the museum for future lectures and participate, like I can see many of our regulars here are doing. So with that, I think, Dr. Kini, thank you so much for such an elaborate explanation. I think that some of those key points, number one on my list would be keeping with the times. Because really things are in so much flux that we, you mentioned Fort Cochin. Fort Cochin had the intact mapping exercise and the heritage zoning that was done in 1989. But today, as of this past 1 year, there is a huge change in all of those facades that are actually recommended to have been preserved, even in the last 1 year. So even when we say that Fort Cochin has done, it did, but it is not today. Okay, so reassessment also, right? Continuous reassessment is really important, and this kind of the idea of economic benefit, for us to have that value attached to this whole idea of conservation, that it must bring us economic benefit. We were talking earlier about even public spaces. How would they continue to sustain as public spaces like this museum itself or any other public space without the money to maintain all of these spaces? So this is a really, really important part of the project. And because this project is so strongly anchored on those pillars of all these different things that Dr. Kini has highlighted today, that's why this project is so successful. And it's something that you should really go and see. That cleft that he's talking about, when you stand there, you will really understand what and in terms of history and strategy and all of these things that we love to play on board games, this is a real life board game that you can go and experience on that Palipuram fort area. So thank you, sir. Thank you so much on behalf of the Geojit Foundation and the Mother Nai Foundation. You have a question? Okay, so we go back to the question and then we wind up.
Sir, it's not exactly a question. It's something I have always wondered about. Like you said about renovating buildings, the old ancient buildings. So those were made with that time's raw materials. So now when we renovate it using modern techniques, won't we actually lose the original artwork, the piece? What do you think?
In fact, it's a very tough question to answer as far as a subject expert is concerned, because the conservation principles says that you have to follow certain norms for that. Like for example, if you have got a traditional plastering surface, it's always nice to have it done with the traditional plaster. There are several things. Like for example, when you patch up, there is a theory that the patch up should be shown differently, because you have to let them know that this was patched up later. We shouldn't merge it in such a way that it existed since so many years. So let the patches be there as patches. So there are certain. I can't give a simple answer for this question. It's a fundamental question that is being relevant in the conservation field. But as far as conservation architecture is concerned, there are strict norms for this. We have to follow. Now, there is nothing wrong in repeating things. Like, for example, you can create a modern building with a traditional feature. There you can use any new material if you feel like putting up. Where you can create the form, you can create the kind of feel, you can create the kind of ambience. But when you are touching upon an old building, where they do have, like for example, you have got an wooden flooring, and on top of wooden flooring there is a traditional kind of chunam floor. That's surki floor. It's always nice to follow that, because it speaks about the value of that particular building, the kind of age of that particular building, the kind of technique that's being used. I am totally against putting up vitrified tile on that for the sake of putting it up. That's where you have to have a strong stand on that.
Thank you, sir. I have always wondered about this. So thank you.
Okay.
Do we have any more? Last one? No? Okay. So I think with that we'll wrap up. Thank you all for coming and joining us on Sunday morning. I hope this was good exposure for you girls also. If anyone wants to catch the talk, the recording is live on YouTube in the live section of the Kerala Museum's YouTube channel. You can watch it there. You can share it with others also there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's only.
No, but that beginning part of the story.